Hello guys, and today we have some big news to discuss. The governor of Belgorod in Russia spoke openly against Putin, and even for me it came as a big surprise. And you know I'm a person who follows very attentively all the conflicts and protests inside the Russian Federation. Why? Because this is huge. The governor of the Russian region speaks against Putin. But honestly, this is very predictable, all because Belgorod is one of many Russian regions that are an active war zone, with lots of explosions and destructions on their military sites and hundreds of thousands of people without heating and electricity during these days. And after numerous requests for more air defense were denied by the Kremlin, Gladkov, the governor, finally turned on Putin. And lots of sources inside the Kremlin now describe him as a traitor, demand some negative consequences for this politician, but honestly, this signals that Putin is losing control, with more and more different problems developing in very different Russian regions. The Kremlin cannot deny the fact they cannot help their regions. And more Russians actually joke that somehow in Ukraine people feel safer than the nation that once described itself as the strongest in the world. So let's discuss what this conflict between the governor of the Russian region and the dictator of Russia means for the collapse of the Putin's regime that I'm sure we will witness together if you subscribe and do share these videos to spread the good news. So let's begin with a brief introduction of the Belgorod region if you do not know a lot about this active war zone in Russia. Belgorod borders Ukraine, actually three of our regions, Kharkiv, Sumy and Luhansk. This is also a region from which Russians often target Ukraine with various kinds of weapons, drones, missiles, and so forth. This was also a region visited by the Ukrainian armed forces the previous year. But most importantly, this now is an active war zone not only because of the Ukrainian actions, legitimate actions, but also because of the Russian negligence. And perhaps this region is number one in the rating of the territories of Russia, where their own army drops a lot of bombs and other stuff. Anyway, right now, after constant attacks, after a lot of military facilities located there, arsenals of the Russian weapons close to the front lines, Vovchansk, the cities that suffers a lot in Ukraine now, is close to Belgorod. It is an active war zone with all the negative consequences for its population, which means that they have no heating, they have no electricity, and their governor Gladkov has no explanation for why the situation is so big, if according to the Russian state TV everything goes according to the Putin's plan. And I believe he begged the Kremlin for more air defense for this frontline region, maybe 100 times. This winter, the situation went really bad for them because, let's be realistic, justice must be served. And Ukrainians, after 4 years of this war, know more how to defend ourselves, while Russians become poorer, angrier, and more disappointed with literally each month. So that governor was begging the Kremlin for more air defense systems to protect their own population, and the Kremlin said no, no, and no. And finally, the patience, even of the patient Russian politician, was broken, and he began speaking against the Putin. He said that perhaps lives and security and warmth of people in Belgorod should have been a bigger priority for Putin than bombing Ukraine. I need to add bombing Ukrainian kindergartens. So finally, those who taste their own medicine see the difference in priorities. Heating, electricity in Belgorod, they now see as something better than cold and darkness in Kyiv. But the Kremlin does not hear them. And it's funny to watch the videos of this governor who, lots of them started copying the Ukrainian politicians, recording addresses to their population, but all of this looks very different, very staged, and perhaps this population that now awaits evacuation from some regions of the active war zone in Belgorod, he wants to provide them some arguments, and he definitely does not have any. So, and I watch these videos. Unfortunately, I already know a lot of names of these Russian governors or mayors of Moscow and so on. Never in my life did I want it, but now every day they need to record videos trying to explain Putin's failures when they actually do not want to share his responsibility. And here we come to the video on Anna Danilchuk channel that I greatly advise you to watch, especially in this context, because more and more Russians discuss the probability of a coup and agree it is very likely in 2026. They only want to predict what is more likely, a military coup or a political coup. And when the governors, when the deputies, and we've discussed that recently, begin speaking openly against Putin, what happens for the first time during his quarter-century's reign? This means a lot. Believe me, people, now is not the time to appease this Kremlin goblin. Now is the time to defeat him or watch how his friends' predators destroy him first. So when this governor records his videos to address the population of Belgorod, to advise them to leave the city, to advise them to evacuate to some other regions, and Russians do not protect their temporarily relocated citizens as we do in Ukraine, even after their constant shellings. This is another big difference in unity and attitude towards your countrymen that we observe. And he begins recording each of his videos with a phrase. The time is very difficult because we may say it is the 5th year of the war. Voila! Here we come to this extremely important conclusion. The 5th year of what was promised as a blitzkrieg, where the Kremlin avoids naming the war, keeping that term special military operation. But it cannot be a special military operation when first they wanted to invade all of my country, Ukraine, and now dozens of the Russian regions are an active war zone. Is it also a special military operation in Belgorod, in Kursk, in Moscow airports? In Murmansk, where the heating is off because of the lack of money in the Russian federal and regional budgets? Thumbs up for that. So there are so many things that start collapsing inside the Russian Federation, in their economy, their banking system, with their utilities, that even the political hierarchy that seemed so stable is already shaking. And believe me, Gladkov is not the only governor that will speak against Putin this year. So they openly say it is the 5th year of what was supposed a blitzkrieg. The situation is really bad and the Kremlin does not give you, people of Belgorod, the air defense you need. They prefer to keep targeting Ukrainian kindergartens, not protecting the Russians from the consequences of the war they so much cheered for. Now they eat their own medicine. And you know what I was surprised to read on various channels in Telegram. And I have also come across this idea on websites in the European Union too. It's a joke, but you know, in Ukraine we say that each joke has a big part of truth in it. So more and more people say that if the Third World War begins, they want to meet it in Ukraine. Are you surprised? I was, because like, come on, we are a country that lives through this active war for 4 years already. And the explanation is actually very logical. They say because at least Ukrainians know how to fight, because at least Ukrainians know how to try to defend more and more of their people. And I need to agree, this is true. At least we are prepared to fight back. And this is very important because the appeasement of the evil never brings you safety, never brings you freedom, and never guarantees you life. I remember there was a quote of Winston Churchill about war and humiliation. And if you choose humiliation, you will have both. So Ukrainians protect not only their homes, but also our dignity. And I'm proud of that. And I'm also very proud of our community of brave people who choose to know the truth. And I hope you will share these videos to bring some positive updates to those who still know very little about what is happening inside Russia. And to know more, follow me here, follow me on Anna Danilchuk channel, and also on X, Instagram, Blue Skies, Threads, Discord, and Substack. Now we have a Sunday newsletter that I hope you will like receiving. Thank you for buying me coffees, becoming my patrons and sponsors of the channels. Check our new merch drop dedicated to, unfortunately, war, but also fortunately spring that will come, and love that must be in the heart of every person. And thank you once again for standing with us. Together we will defeat this evil. Trust me, I'm Ukrainian. Slava Ukraini!